6 years just zoomed by, and against all odds, Paramore have the same band lineup on back-to-back albums for the first time ever. Paramore at their most political? A post-punk block party, perhaps? Unofficial hype man Zane Lowe went to great lengths when blowing smoke up the cracks as he quickly called This Is Why their best album. The non-stop hype conversation often outweighs rational thinking, especially when fans have been waiting this long, so let's take a step back and dive into the shallow pools presented on the influential rock band's 6th record, the highs and the lows. Hey neighbor, thanks for stopping by to check out my review of This Is Why by the alternative rock band Paramore. After Laughter dropped in May 2017 to mixed feedback, mostly from the pop punk and rock lovers who still begged for a sequel to Riot as if that would be healthy for anyone, Paramore glowed with a brilliant range of colors on that emotionally devastating LP, which proved that, Brand New Eyes, the self-titled album, these were not flukes, and even in the midst of turmoil, we had no reason to doubt their vision. One of the most anticipated releases of the past few years is finally at our door, but instead of the wolf huffing and puffing, ready to blow it down, I can't help but feel like the old bait and switch got pulled based on how not representative the initial singles are of the album's sound. The time away from the band proved to be productive for the core trio, that being Zac Farro, Hayley Williams, and Taylor York. Hayley made a pair of solo albums, one far superior to the other, but the return of Paramore failed to mark the return of the Paramore mindset. What I mean by that is that her normally stunning singing voice feels much more tame, like she's almost still in solo mode or something, and voices change. Obviously, no one should feel boxed in artistically, but the lack of vocal runs and powerful substance might actually leave you itching for more. This is why the title track carved out its own little perch somewhere between Block Party and the Talking Heads, as they open the record with a ridiculously earwormy hook, bleeding right into the album's loudest, proudest banger, The News. Maybe I should have seen it as a warning sign, but The News goes way too hard with chomping guitar charisma and killer vocals for me to really care all that much about any issues involving the lyrics feeling underwritten. But the problem is that the problem doesn't stop there, only becoming a much harder pill to swallow as the track list drags on, with very little in the way of lasting substance or challenging commentary. Thankfully, Taylor shines like a lighthouse when he's really able to let his nuanced riffs fly off the handle, but the sad reality is that much of the runtime feels like it's building up to a satisfying conclusion, but it doesn't fully get there, especially with us having waited in line for half a decade for the ride. Zac Farro's best performances generally appear on the more energetic moments. Obviously, The News is a monster drum track alongside other radiant gems such as You First, but those are a little bit too far and few between to make This Is Why feel consistent. To me, This Is Why actually feels a lot like eating a Hot Pocket, because on the edges, they're burning up. There's a lot of cool stuff going on musically, and some of the vocals and everything, but once you bite into the center and really start to dive into it, it starts to become a little bit cold. Leading up to the album release, without even having heard it, fans were somehow raving that this was the love child of After Laughter and Brand New Eyes. And guys, I'm just gonna keep it real with you. The only way that comparison actually feels accurate is if you're calling This Is Why a baby compared to the two giants.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Relax, it's a joke. I know these are nitpicks, but I'm only digging in my heels because I know they're capable of much better, and now it feels all too apparent as to why the album was such an arduous labor of love for them to assemble. Carlos de la Garza is an extremely gifted producer, so it's a little bit bittersweet to see him back in the fold. This Is Why definitely doesn't punch as hard as it feels like it should, and part of me wishes that they would have tried out somebody new in the production booth rather than bringing on the guy that encouraged more of the sultry flame and Hayley's solo music. To Spidey swing over to the positives, because yes, there are still plenty of those, the track listing at times can feel laser focused, hell-bent on unplugging the narrator from the 24-hour news cycle nature of feeling like you have to care about everything all the time or else you're a bad person. Many of the album's best songs do come out in bursts, with the opening pair of singles naturally being among those, but also the 3-part ladder from You First to Figure 8, which both of those vibe a lot more like older Paramore bangers, and then to the unexpectedly nice romantic confession, Liar. 10 songs and 36 minutes does not leave much time for filler, but they kind of walk around nonchalantly like the video's playing at half speed. At times you'll feel like a fly on the wall observing a conversation between friends, just not a particularly compelling one given the lack of lyrical finesse, which really bums me out to say because Hayley Williams is a damn great songwriter. She may have unintentionally written the most profound slice of wisdom on the entire record in the middle of the most agitating song they've ever made, delivering the line, "I hate to admit getting better is boring," on the sarcastic "C'est Comme Ça." Indeed, it is what it is. Healthy minds are a great thing. I just wish the fireworks show was a bit more enjoyable instead of feeling like they're grasping at straws, circling the drain searching for something to write home about. Running out of time irks me a bit. The delectable instrumental work I feel deserves a better set of lyrics than whatever the self-deprecating joke about Hayley always being late became, but still, it's solid, catchy, well-sung, and it does have a cool vocal hook, even if I find myself spacing out about halfway through. Not gonna harp on it, but since we're going track by track, C'est Comme Ça is downright silly. Loose, fun, vibrant, I could see the appeal, I guess, from an objective perspective, but God does this nightmare irritate me. It feels like it's 5 steps away from being the hot new Cocomelon anthem. Politics, I say that lightly, politics come out to play on Big Man Little Dignity. The setup is somewhat intriguing, tearing down the curtain protecting abusive men who haven't faced accountability for their actions, but the delivery quickly gets messy as Hayley attempts selling the first verse from the perspective of a man with terrible intentions, but as it jumps around both in terms of sound and the narrative, I can't help but feel like if you're gonna do a song like this, go for the damn throat, not a light scratch offered by the weak lyrics like, "No offense, but you got no integrity." Like really? We're just gonna skirt on the surface? We start wading into the deep end finally on You First, a top tier cut with some riveting guitars and a walloping bounce. The metaphor of the bad parts of you coming back like an animal racing back for scraps was pretty clever, and it was around this spot in the album that I really feel that we had a turning point. Figure 8 blew me away, hands down the best song on the album. The ice-cold shoulder stings, knowing how hopeless the situation must have felt, circling the runway without a place to land. A creeping bass line from the insanely talented Brian Robert Jones raises the sail, opening the sinkhole as T's vicious guitar grit rips like a torn mast as Captain Hayley roars with some of her best vocals on the entire album. Liar is the love song, and that's the one the parasocial stans are gonna devour, unfortunately, because some of them feel entitled to know the ins and outs of Hayley and Taylor's romantic relationship, even though they definitely don't, and I appreciate that this moment feels sincere and personal without really giving too much away. Circling back to what I was saying earlier about the potholes and the pacing, Crave, a more up-tempo tune, tags in immediately after that romantic side quest with a righteous anger. Unfortunately, there's just not enough meat on the bones to make it more than a passing moment of nostalgic sounding catharsis. Thick Skull is the swan song farewell, sorta like a tangled ode to the trio of bandmates with everything they've been through together over the years. You get more from it the more time you put in, like some sort of backwards reverse black magic slot machine. The drums grow louder and more sporadic, as does Taylor's artistically liberating solo that builds the bridge for Hayley to fly over with that towering, unmistakable vocal. In no way am I arguing that this is an unsalvageable train wreck. It's actually pretty easy on the old eardrums, and at times it can be electrifying. The good ideas are in there, even if the rewards aren't exactly the treasure trove that we seem to be barreling towards, so I guess they're just a little bit caught in the mid? See myself out. That's how this body of work struck me, so I'm gonna give Paramore's This Is Why a 3 out of 5. Any and all thoughts on the album are welcomed in the comments, and a friendly reminder, this is obviously just my humble opinion, but it's one that I believe in, so even if we disagree, hopefully we can do it respectfully. At some point this year, I am planning to re-rank Paramore's albums, but for now, you can catch up on all of my content on them right here.